Hey, Eric, Coram Farm, year 3 flower farming thing. We sell stuff from a stand up there. Can't really tell if it's on the camera because it's so bright out. It's the middle of the day, it's August, and we take August off, which gives us a chance to catch up on a lot of activities and maintenance tasks as we prepare to basically close out the season. We're gonna do a push in September with one last tranche of flowers, a bunch of sunnies and some of those late season sunflowers. I've been working on the cool room. We're getting it back up and running and prepared to start accepting some sunflowers. And in general, it's just trying to get all these like farm maintenance tasks up to date as opposed to lots of flower sales focus, which there's a lot of those things that kind of build up over the season. So I was gonna go check in on Alex too, and maybe we can convince her to do a quick walk around and be like, what does a flower farm even look like this late in the summer months, especially here in the high plains, much further south in our country. So let's go take a look and see what kind of grows here in Oklahoma when you fight back all the grasses and try to grow actual beautiful plants. So let's go take a look. Oh, wow. Wow. We're growing some trees in here. You see, we grow grasses really well here. Everything uncovered, doesn't matter how much you cover. Every square inch not covered will grow grasses, which luckily we've got a lot of plants and cover elsewhere, but I've got a lot of mowing to do. What?
Hi.
Where are you back here?
Hi! Welcome to Marigold Forest.
Oh my gosh, this is a forest. I actually haven't been in here.
Where we grow marigold trees.
Gee whiz.
I'm sorry. I know this is gonna be super annoying to clean up.
Oh my gosh.
Don't be mad. This is what happens when plant timing plus tunnel goes horribly
Oh my gosh,
wrong.
we got a Lysianthus growing again.
I know, it's a second flusher, isn't that cool?
You could totally sell those.
No.
Those little things. Even the status. My goodness, I'm trying to get down here. I'm sorry for my poor camera work. Trying to get an example of
I know what you're showing.
just the thickness here.
Yeah.
Look at this tree. Look at this tree. Holy cow. Just a reminder, my hand is enormous. So. Jeez.
But we're in our tunnel, and I plan.
Can I even get back to you here? Is this Bugville?
It's pretty horrible.
Right. This is another reason why we don't do much actual.
Yeah, get this guy. Okay, so there's a grasshopper on top of that marigold, and he's
wow.
like an average size guy. He's like 2 inches. They're everywhere in here. It sounds like there's animals, like mice in here because the sounds are so big. But I'm 5'8".
Oh my God.
So I've grown almost 6 foot tall marigolds in our tunnel. These were planted with plugs in early June, and my hope was that they would bloom a little later in August, and then I could use them in September for our fall season. But as we're learning, everything grows bigger and more aggressive in a tunnel. They also bloomed faster, and so I am in a marigold forest. So some of the tasks I've been working on is cutting them back. I gotta just do, honestly, a really big kind of like cut them in half chop so that they can spend now the next couple weeks reflushing and branching so that I can use them in September. Because they're healthy, I mean, some of them have knocked over because we just didn't corral very well, but once I cut them down, it should be okay. But yeah, it's a little aggressive. And I have a lot of cutting down to do. But I think Eric might have told you, I heard his voice on the property. But we thought we'd give you a little tour of what an August flower farm looks like. Part of it is just the reality of August being really hard to flower farm, and also what things look like when we're closed. And we're just kind of taking a break, which means we're not like doing 1,000,001 tasks here in the heat and grasshoppers. So things look a little less polished than it normally does here. And I know Eric wants to get out of this tunnel because he...
That is a hornet.
Okay, let's leave. This celosia here, though, I did plant much earlier than the forest. It is a coral, I think it's Selway salmon and terracotta that's in here. And I planted this in early May and I cut very hard on it in July. It was absolutely wonderful. Haven't been cutting on it because we don't need flowers in August, but it performed really, really well for us. We probably do need to come here and cut it down soon before it really starts going to seed, because that'll just save us in the future, because celosia reseeds itself pretty aggressively. So that's what this is. I loved it. It worked great. Next year in our crop plan, I'm also going to plant celosia in the tunnel to use for our July bouquets. Here in the front of the tunnel is cinnamon basil that I planted at the same time as I planted the tall celosia plugs and the marigold plugs. And I'm not probably going to do basil again. I've talked about it in another video of just, I don't want to deal with its fussiness with wilting. However, the basil grown in our tunnel has been the longest stemmed and the biggest basil I've ever grown versus the field. And it's really beautiful and would do really well. It's just with the heat in July when it gets going, it's too hard in the flower stand. They tend to wilt on me, which I don't love. But tunnel basil has performed so much better than field basil for me with stem length. So if you have the space, consider putting your basil in your tunnel. Give it that extra heat. We're up here in front of our annual field that's up by the flower stand. We have worked really hard this year about being good about terminating our rows and covering them when they finish. And so that's why most of it is already covered. Eric cut it down. We pulled up landscape and drip, folded it and stored it nicely. Eric tilled in what was left, and we've covered it, which is great for weed and grass management in the way that the tunnel isn't quite as polished. But the last rows we have to terminate are our second succession of zinnias and a row of marigolds and celosia. The reason we haven't done it is, one, we've just been busy, and also we keep getting rain like right before he wants to do it, and it's not great with the tractor and just the mud and muck with our rows. So it continues to be up from the road. It still looks really bright and cheery, and people are like, that's the flower farm. And so it's kind of serving a marketing purpose. Whereas like if you went up close, it's like a grasshopper, powdery mildew, going to seed nightmare show. But that's why it's still up. But we'll get that cut down. We'll cover it with silage, and we'll have a full, all 10 rows will be flipped and silaged and ready for when we're ready to plant in the fall with stuff that gets overwintered. So I like how neat and organized we've been this year, because we're getting better. I do want to say thank you to all of you that watched our Patreon announcement video, which is the last video we uploaded. We announced that we are starting a Patreon channel as a way to more directly help those of you that are aspirational flower farmers, new flower farmers, want to try to do the profitable part-time flower farming gig. And we decided that on Patreon, it would allow us to give you a lot more one-on-one interactive help, answer direct questions, and provide more specific content. And I think at least 50 of you have already signed up in like the first week and a half we've had Patreon. We've already done a live Q&A. We already have downloads up there for you to reference. And it's just really exciting building out that community. So thank you to those of you that were like the first ones in the door, because obviously that shows that you trust us and you want to be a part of what we're building and learn from what we're doing. And we're really thankful for that, because that takes a certain level of trust and commitment. And so we really value that. And if you're interested in our Patreon, I'll put the link in the description. We're offering what I think is a lot of really specific, helpful flower farming content for an affordable monthly price that doesn't feel maybe as overwhelming as like a big one-time course purchase. It's a little more like snack size bites, which I think sometimes feels better when you're just launching something and you're still learning a lot of the new things. We want to meet you at that level. So our other field that we have that's still in growing use is our sunflower field. We primarily focus on sunflower bouquets in the fall with the marigolds and celosia. It's a very simple recipe, but I think it screams fall. It's what people like, and it's also easy to grow and keep alive through those really horrible August temperatures and conditions here in Oklahoma. And we are trialing 2 new sunflower varieties this year that will report on what we think. In the past, we've only ever done Pro Cuts, but this fall, we are doing Vincent's Choice and the Sunrich series, 2 varieties within the Sunrich series. And we did 2 successions. And so these 2 rows, which are obviously super tall, was our first succession. We planted these in the beginning of August, end of July timeframe. And there's the 2 different varieties I mentioned. And then a week or so later, maybe 10 days later, we planted a second succession of those same 2 varieties to try. We're planning to do a whole, like, start to finish sunflower video and content on Patreon where we get really specific of what we've learned, how we plant, timing, favorite varieties, all of that. But we'll also do a YouTube update video of what this ends up doing. Our biggest problem has been sporadic germination because of just how hot it is when you're planting these seeds, and keeping them irrigated can be a really big challenge, especially with just drip. So we had to do some hand watering. We definitely have some patchy spots, but we should have enough to satisfy what our demand, I'm guessing, is going to be in September. So for now, it's just a lot of daily drip irrigating and waiting and hoping our timing is right and these start to bloom after Labor Day weekend. So I'm hoping to open the week after Labor Day, or maybe the week after, but not have them bloom, in the next week or 2, which they're not going to now that I can, get close and see where they're at. They're not going to bloom in the next week or so, but that's what we've got going on. August is really hard, you guys, pretty much anywhere. Oklahoma is not unique in the hardness of August, but we've learned that the best choice for lifestyle and our family and profitability is to not fight it and to just be closed. And so that means our work days on Saturdays tend to be a lot lighter. We're just doing some maintenance, or we're just deferring, like those zinnias and marigolds. We don't need to cut them down right away. They can just sit. We can wait until it gets into the 80s in September, even if we wanted to deal with it. We're not looking at losing a ton of money by being closed in August because our customers are also busy. School starts tomorrow. So this weekend, we probably would have had pretty low sales because all the moms are getting ready for kids back to school. We started our homeschool year, all of that. And so I'm thankful that we made that committed decision to close in August and just come back and have a really great 4 to 5 weeks of fall sales, and then be rested and invigorated for all of the work that really comes in the fall for flower farmers, which is planting all of the corms and plugs and a million things we need to do. But I don't want to think about that right now. So this is August in Oklahoma on our farm.